Alrighty. Okay. Everybody hear me okay? Alrighty. Sorry, I'm running solo tonight, so I do everything by myself. Sound engineer is hanging out on a Friday night somewhere. All right. So this is going to be a little more catch up tonight, just because we had such a horrible time with our internet Wednesday night. But I think we'll be okay tonight. Made a few changes. The second, let me grab something. Okay. I've been working out in the shop all day. Pardon my appearance. We happen to have had a very nice hot day today. So we'll give everybody a couple of minutes to our late guys coming in, and we'll go from there. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to talk about right quick while we're waiting? I'm looking off to the right because that's where my chat is window is set up. Plug you to. Because I don't have my James Mad Dog here. Decided he had some previous plans. I'll have to get that for you. That is a song that I bought the rights to years ago. I just thought it always sounded cool. The profit right now, the current rules are CAV Strike Operations, which is kind of like CAV 3.0, but it's really kind of an all new set of rules. If you played CAV 1, you'll probably see a lot more similarities there. Best place, you can get it off of our store at talon.games. We actually have a special going on as well. If you order the book, you get free shipping and get to pick your first squad of figures, 4 models for free. There is not. As far as that, Dave, spaceship games have a very limited life. We've got so much stuff already we're working on and trying to get caught up that trying to put a space game in there that after 6 months, if it doesn't have Star and Wars in the name, not going to probably do good. We are going to work those into some things as far as planetary assaults and stuff like that. So you'll see some of it. We've got some stuff coming out with the ships, but we're not going to do a set miniatures game. We do plan on doing a lot more with the drop ship stuff as we go. You're very welcome, Prophet. But as far as the name of that song, Cthulhu, I will get you the name for it out there. Like Melody of the Battle or Hymn of the Battles or exactly. You know, and I would love to do a spaceship game. I love spaceships. I think it'd be cool to have the big ships and everything. like that. But like I said, it's just my experience with a lot of space games over the years. They just have a short shelf life because you can only play so many space battles, not get a lot of variety there. I've got a couple of lists on Spotify. I think if you search for CAV Strike Operations, I think there's 2 that come up. One is kind of mine that I put together, and the other one was back last year. I think we asked people on the Facebook page to contribute what song that they thought that went on there. So that's a really long list, and there's quite an eclectic group of music there. But I think it's good for background when you're bashing and shooting each other with calves. Maybe I can try to get some more of the melodies, the music and stuff. Spotify list, non-verbal. Okay, well, I think we've given everybody a chance that wants to get in here tonight, so we'll get started. Cross our fingers that we don't have a huge internet crash again. I think I figured out what the problems were. We were having bad weather come in, and I didn't realize that we were still uploading YouTube videos. So I think that was sucking up some of our bandwidth. I think we're all good now. We've kind of changed some of our bit rates and stuff, turned up too high as we're learning to do this. So anyway, so we started off Wednesday night talking about infantry. That seems to be the biggest mark of confusion that people have. And I'll take full blame on that. Sometimes I push things out there because it made sense to my mind, and I thought a lot of it was, hey, you'll get it, you'll figure it out, and it doesn't always work out that way. Trying to do better as we go along. But infantry there is a multitude of variations. That's the reason why if you pull them up in the face or in the instruction program, there are not a lot of infantry cards in there. I think I put basic ones for 2 or 3 each of the light and 2 or 3 of the heavy and powered armor. Infantry is set up so that you can go in there and choose how you want guys to be. And you choose it by the base. Trying to figure it any other way is crazy. And so that we're all on the same page as to what constitutes a base infantry. It is one base, whether you're using hexes, whether you're using circles, squares, whatever. The one base is one group of infantry. Okay. Now, how many guys that you put on there is totally up to you. You can put 1 guy on there. You can put 5 guys on there. You can make a command squad. This one here I put together. This kind of a generic one. It's got 4 guys on it. It's got an officer in the middle and 3 rifle guys around him. So that's just my general rifle infantry. Sorry, I can't zoom in any better than that. That'll get you the idea. Now, a squad of infantry are however many bases that you put in that particular squad. So like a basic rifle squad has to have 6 to 8 bases. Hi, Jeff, how are you? Yeah, 1 dessert platter of infantry. So this actually would not be a legal squad. You need 2 more because it has to be at least 6 to 8. So that's 1 squad's worth. Now, you can mix and match bases in squads if you want to, because each base has its own card. I don't recommend that unless there's a special reason that you need to, just because it can get harder to track. Now, again, if you build your bases so that you know what each one is, it's not such a big deal either. So like right here, this particular base has laser rifles. This is a mortar base. This is just this is another 4 base of rifle, infantry, 3 rifle, and 1 commander. So, or NCO, however you want to set that up. So that is what we're talking about when we're talking about infantry. You have a base, and then you have a squad. Now, the main thing that you want to remember about infantry is it's cheap, especially with rifle. I think a base of rifle infantry is like 26 points, threat value points. So you could get a whole squad of 8, you know, or 10 or whatever it goes up to for, I think Malvern, actually I think it goes, maybe it's 8 to 12. Sorry, it got too many numbers going on. Anyway, so if you had a 10 base squad, you've only got 260 points. So, you know, that's a decent sized medium CAV. But especially if you go with a smaller squad and go to the minimum, you can very easily pile way too much infantry up into a game. And if that's what you want, I'm not saying not to do it, but you know, trying to have 10, 15 squads worth of infantry, if the game doesn't really need it, can really tie it down and can get kind of boring because it's just so many bases that you have to move. One of the things that I'm fond of telling people, yes, if you want it, yes and no. CAV is set up so that you can play by a standard set of army builder rules, or you can play more as a generic set. We have in the game called faction doctrines. So if you go through and build a faction exactly how they're supposed to be set up, which would be CAVs in a squad, vehicles in a squad, however many bases go into that squad, whether it's 5, 6, 10, depending on the deal. If you do that, you're allowed to play with faction doctrines. If you want to build more generic and still, you can still say, hey, I'm a Terran force, but I've got a squad of 3 CAVs and 2 tanks. That's still perfectly fine to do and legal, but you don't qualify for the faction doctrines. Now, the other side of that is you can play, it's your game. You can play it however you want to play. So if you want to mix and match stuff or change numbers and still play with faction doctrines, you're more than welcome to. I'm just saying we've got the game delineated into, for those type of people that like a strict, I have to have 3 of these and 1 of these and 4 of these. That makes sense, Cthulhu? Now, again, going back to the number of squads and everything like that, what I was going to say earlier is about game mechanics. Everybody's fond of, hey, we need to make a game go as fast as we possibly can. Okay, I know that, you know, when in our heyday, 6 or 8 hours for a game on a Saturday, that's what we all got together for. You know, start in the morning, eat lunch, play a little more, drink a couple of beers, play a little more, and call it a night because we made a day of it. That doesn't always hold true, especially for a lot of the younger gamers. I know with my 2 boys, about 2 to 3 hours is their attention span. So a lot of games have tried to, I don't want to say dumb themselves down to meet that, but it is something that they take into consideration. Now, the offside of that is it takes so long to do anything. You can have the simplest system in the world. You know, if you have just a game that all your guys do is move and you declare an attack and you go rock, scissors, paper, and that decides who wins and who dies, you know, that's about as simple a system as you're ever going to come up with. But it still is going to take you 30 seconds at best to be done with that move, with, like I said, with what I think is the simplest system you're ever going to come up with. So, you know, if you've got 20 models to a side, even with that system, each of you have 10 minutes in a turn to move. So all of a sudden you've got 20 minutes no matter what. And that's playing with the simplest system in the world. And I think sometimes people forget that. You know, so if you think that a game's taking a little longer, or it's going a little more than you should or whatever, kind of keep that in mind. Because like I said, you can simplify it as much as you can, but it's kind of like, you know, the computer rule. You're going to get to a point where the computer's so fast that, you know, your mind cannot interpret the data anymore. So that's something to take into account when you have a lot of infantry. If you've got 100 infantry squads out there and they all have to move, it's going to take you 50 minutes to move all those squads. And that's moving at 30 seconds a second. So kind of keep that in mind. CAV is obviously not an infantry game, but it is combined arms, and infantry has its place. If you're trying to do assaults, defense, things like that, so keep that in mind. Going on as far as force creation outside of infantry. Well, first of all, does anybody have any more questions about infantry while I'm kind of on that? Finishing up a little. Okay, so let's go on and talk about some of the other units in force creation. You are required to purchase units and squads in a certain direction. You know, we have main squads, we have secondary squads, or attack squads, or main squads, secondary squads. We have flight squads, special squads, and you have to purchase those in order to go in before you can purchase the next thing. So your primary squads are like your attack squads, your rifle squads, infantry squads, your special squads. If you buy one of those, then it allows you to buy secondary or fire support or flight, and that builds out. That's another good place where infantry is good for it, because you can take, you know, if you're trying to fill out and hey, I really need to figure out how to get a good fire support squad in there. You know, you can take an attack squad, build a recon squad, come back and pull a rifle infantry squad. That would allow you to buy a fire support squad. Infantry is real good for that too, to kind of play with the numbers a little bit. But if you decide that you want to play faction but not go with their faction lists, that's perfectly okay. You know, an attack squad is 4 to 6 models, a generic one, mercenary, call it for. One of those models can be another, like a fire support or a recon, and everything has to be. But you're more than welcome to take 1 CAV and 5 tanks if that's what you want to do. With the faction doctrines, it's more delineated that way. So a squad of CAVs is a squad of CAVs. A squad of tanks is a squad. The special squads are kind of that catch-all, even when you're playing factions, but you have 4 of any models. So you can make a special squad. CAV, a vehicle, an aircraft, and a base of infantry. So it's kind of a good place to mix and match and catch, trying to come up with a special setup. But that's something I want to make sure everybody understands. You can still say that I am a rock unit or made an easy, whatever, and mix it up and not go with the exact lists that those up, and either decide to or not play with faction. Most of that stuff just comes into effect depending on tournament rules or pickup games and stuff like that, just to avoid any. So we've gone over that. Flight squads always have 2 models. They also have a secondary role. You can have a flight squad that is attack. You can have a flight squad that's recon. And they count for that. So if it's a flight squad and they're both recon aircraft, then you get the benefits of a recon squad, which has some to do with deployment and being able to flip cards during. The one thing that does come up is the bulky rule. Originally, when I put the rules together, I really wanted to avoid people building 4 Emperor Rock Squads. I thought that would be kind of silly and done. So what we did is bulky is always counted towards transportation. So if you have a transport or whatever that carry a CAV dropship that has a dropship deal, a bulky model requires 2 of those. Well, we made that also apply to squad rules. So a bulky model would take up 2.2 spots of that. So you can have up to 6 spots in a squad. So you could build a true rock squad with 4 models and have 2 bulky and 2 non-bulky. The problem that we ran into was, especially at the beginning, everybody didn't have enough models to fill out the squad. So all of a sudden, everybody was kind of having to pick and choose things that they didn't really want to play, that they didn't really have in their mind to do. So we have got rid of that. So bulky does not apply to squad construction. It applies to transport. So sorry for that way. Because we kind of have seen the threat value limits kind of solve that problem. So, I think Emperor's like 1082 or something. So, if you want to take a 4 model squad of Emperors and spend 4,500 points on a 5,000, yes, you're going to be able to hammer the car out of something. But you'll quickly find out there is a quality and quantity as well. And sometimes that can come back to any other questions about force construction? Or any questions at all? If you have something, I don't mind going off topic. We're filling in time here. Kind of off the cuff night. So one of the things though that I want to get into is we are working on 2 books. Okay. How many extra cards can you get from recon? You don't get there is no recon infantry. Maybe down the road we'll do something as like an upgrade or something for a special mission. But as far as infantry being a true recon squad, as far as squad construction, I don't see that going to happen. All right, Ilram, you don't get an extra card from recon. What you get to do is during deployment, it allows recon models to kind of adjust a little bit after everybody's on the board. So if you loaded your recon side up to one side and he puts a lot of stuff on that side, it gives you the benefits to rearrange or deploy them last or whatever. During the game, what it does is a recon unit gets to flip a card. So let's say that we're playing a 3 squad on 3 squad and one of mine's a recon and I'm black and you're red. Well, I really need to move next and a red card comes up. Well, normally I'd be stuck. But with having a recon squad in there is I can move that card to the bottom of the deck and then flip the next card. So I've taken a black card out of the mix for a little bit and hopefully the odds are in my favor that next card is going to be a red card. If it's a black card again, then you're stuck with what you're doing. You can also do that to your own card. If a red card came up and you're not ready to move, you're trying to wait to get him to move something, you can move your red card to the bottom of the deck. And you can do that once each turn per recon squad. So if you had a recon CAV squad, a recon tank squad, or a recon flight squad, you could theoretically move 3 cards during. It's not a most awesomest thing, but it can make a big difference. Now you can add in the battlefield specializations and everything. There's SIG intelligence card. You can add those cards to your deck. You can purchase those with some of your threat value points. So you can add that card into the deck to help the odds. At the lower end, if there's 2 or 3 squads to a side, that card can make a big difference. You're trying to move your stuff. Bigger games, unless you have a lot more cards mixed in there, not nearly as good. I think in the errata rules, we have decreased the cost of the SIGINT card down to 100 points, and you're limited to 1 card per squad. So if you're playing a 3-on-3 squad game, you could theoretically spend 300 of your threat value points and add 3 cards to the deck of that caller, and that can make a huge difference, especially in the size of game. I think too the Ritter, I think, also have one of their faction doctrines card to add in there. So Recon, SIGINT, and playing Ritter, if you're really going after deck control, makes with that, talking about decks, that brings up a thing too. We're kind of working on a new variation of the initiative deck. Mainly, one of the problems you have when you're playing with cards, especially on a small game, if you're playing 1 or 2 squads, you only end up with 1 or 2 cards on each side. So it gets kind of funny to try to have to shuffle 2 or 4. You can always play individual models, and each model have a card, but that really changes the dynamics of the game. And the game was really not built around individual movement. And it really messes up the C3 points. And you can do it, and there's things in there how you can do it, but it gets away from the original flavor and the intent of. So what we're going to do, we've got a sample deck, and hopefully here the next 2 or 3 weeks I can get a list up so that you can, if you want to start playing with it a little bit, you can take a regular deck of cards and renumber them a little bit, and still build the deck. We will actually be printing an all new initiative deck that's based upon this this new concept. If we go ahead and go with it, each card will have its own art. It'll be a much more fancy deck, but what will end up happening is there'll be basically kind of like an event table that will have X number of different things that come into effect during the game. It could be a fog of war, just little things like that. Nothing that's usually going to make a big difference, but it can have a little bit of a tweak and add a little flavor to the game. So you'll have your regular card for initiative, any other cards that you buy or anything like that. But for every squad that you have in the game as well, you'll get a roll on the event table. And whatever that card is for your color, you will add that card into the deck as well. So even if you're playing just a squad versus a squad, now your deck will have at least a minimum of 4 cards. A 2-squad deck will have 6 cards, and it just adds a lot more to the mix. And those cards the event cards are color coded to your side, so there'll be a set of red event cards and a set of black event, whatever colors we have. So let's say you've got a 2-on-2 squad deck. 6 cards, I shuffle them all up. I flip the first one, and it's a red event card. But you will still move a red squad, but whatever that event card is in effect at that point. So, and it'll be something that's just during your activation or whatever. So then you'll go ahead and finish your squad like you normally would, flip the next card, and if it's just a normal initiative card or another event card, you go ahead and do it. Now, what also adds to the randomness of it is, since it's a 2-on-2 squad game, you actually only need 4 cards. So each turn until somebody dies, 2 cards will never be turned. So you may get both of your event cards, you may not get none of your event, vice versa for the other side, or no event cards will show up at all. Will recon be able to suppress events? They get to flip the next card, so that would be yes. Of course, the next card could be another card that may be worse, but the recon will still be able to burn a card. Yes. But I've got a couple of artists right now that are working on a lot. The art will be more orientated. It'll have more of a, I guess, a magic card look to it with illustration on the front and a description of what it. Yes. No, that was the very first question that came up when we were kind of brainstorming. Right? Will you be able to still use recon to flip a card? And yes. If you want to flip that card, then you get that card to the bottom of the deck. They still have a, will there be a bigger SIG? No, it'll still be the same thing. If you want to buy extra cards for that, again, you'll add that to the deck. So on our example, if one side buys 2 SIG cards, instead of a 6-card deck, we'll have an 8-card deck. But again, 4 of those cards will never see the light of day in that turn. So, but all of a sudden now you have a 50% chance of whatever card being, or even it'd be more than that. It'd be 5 cards out of the 8 will be yours. So probably what, 55-60%. Not as far as the event. You can still buy the SIG card, which just adds another initiative card to the deck, but it won't have anything attached to it. And then we'll actually, as part of this new deck, there'll be specific cards put in there for some of the things that's already in the game, as far as SIG cards, the special event things that you might buy with a specialization or something like that, where you need a card. There'll be some generic ones you'll be able to assign that to for random artillery, stuff like that. So that way there'll always be cards in the deck for everything that you're not going to be guessing or have to say, okay, the king of clubs is going to be this. So we're kind of moving away from being such a traditional playing deck, because you can take a regular CAV deck now and play crazy poker. I sprung it on my grandma one night when we were playing, I think it might have been Rummy or something like that I used a CAV deck, and trying to make her understand the difference between skulls and stars and shields. And it was quite the humorous event, but we got through it. So, okay, so that's something that we've got coming on. And once we have that, like I said, once we have that list finalized, I'll put out a quick little PDF that will assign a card from the normal deck to that particular card. So, we'll say the 10 of diamonds is equivalent to this card. And then if you want to take a deck of cards and just write those on there for now so that you know what they are, it'll give you a chance to kind of play through it a little bit, and we'll get some feedback from you and see what everybody. The other 2 big projects that are in play right now that we really spent a lot of this summer, since we've all been stuck at home, working on, is the new Journal of Recognition. Originally, when it started, we were hoping to be able to get everything that was out right now into the book, but with everything that we've added and the last Kickstarter and stuff, making it way too big a book. So we're kind of going to break it up. Each faction will have some models in there. Each model will get a 2-page spread. It'll talk a little bit about if you've seen the old journals, a lot of this will be as far as how the development and where they are. We'll also feature a couple of different units um, and pilots or whatnot, little short blurb stories to kind of fluff out the background a little bit more. There'll also be a color illustration of a particular paint scheme in the game, and we'll have a list of the paints as colors that you want to use. We will be using the colors from the Reaper Bones line, HD line of paints, but you can use whatever you want. We're just giving you a base color of what we designed our themes into effect. There'll also be a inset picture of an actual miniature that's been painted with a different unit. So that way we'll be able to show two paint schemes on each model for a faction. So I don't know if you saw me the other day on one of the Facebook pages, I put up a list of like the Templar stuff like that. So this will be besides kind of a background information, it'll also be a lot more information out there about the different units, the logos. There he is. I'll get to that in just a second. One of the other things that has come up that people have asked about is because of the changes in errata, our rule book is 5 years old. Obviously, as we go along, as you've seen with any game that's out there, things came up that people are doing with it that we never even thought about doing. Things that later on we decided were a better way to do it. So, things change, and in 5 years, it happens. So we have a pretty decent errata size document out there right now. A lot of it is FAQ stuff, so it's more explanation than it is changes, but there is some drastic rule changes in it. So the first thing I keep hearing is, well, why don't you do another rule book, do a second edition of the rule book? Well, here's what we're going to do, and hopefully this will work. I'm a gamer. I like to play. I do this because I enjoy doing it. Me trying to make $1 million, there's a lot of other things I could be out there doing. But I love CAV. I love gaming. I love you guys. I love, just the whole thing that goes along with it. I'm 52 years old. I've been doing this since I was 15 years old. And, when I do this, I feel like I'm turning 16 instead. I hate, spending $40 for a rule book and them coming out with another rule book and say, oh, that rule book's no good anymore. So that's kind of where the errata has come into play in regards to that. But obviously, as more things change, stuff gets in the way and it's harder to get. So what we're going to do is, and I believe the Journal of Recognition will be out first, is we're going to take the construction rules and the information as far as the equipment and specializations and everything like that. We will update that with the errata and any last changes that we make, and that will be printed in the back of the Journal of Recognition. So that way you're getting a new book, but you're also getting the new construction. Now, kind of going towards what Jeff was saying, next book that we're working on, and Herb Bias from Battletech fame is helping me with that campaign book, by the way. The rules of engagement. And what that's going to be is that's going to be kind of a rules update campaign book that will allow you to get away from just the shoot games and pickup games and whatever, and actually you'll be able to play pirates, mercenaries, house units, security forces, whatever you want. The system is set up to allow you to play however you want. You start off with one squad or one guy or whatever, and you'll build through that, and the system is in place for either for you to pull out of there, or if you have a third guy that you want to have a GM, or hopefully we'll even have maybe some solo rules. We've talked about it a little bit. I know, especially for smaller game companies, this year has been murder on us, being not able to get out to the convention and everything, and people stuck at home. They don't have anybody to play with. They can't get anybody there. We've looked at doing some things online with Tabletop Simulator and stuff, But every time that we try to go off into something like that, that just adding another plate to the table, and stuff gets delayed, and I'm trying to get away from it. So the part of the thing that will come out in the new campaign book is a new faction doctrines. Again, the faction doctrines kind of got dated. There's a couple of them that are really not that do any good, especially like the Lend-Lease doctrine for the Amethyl, now that we put in the secondary line stuff that the Ritter have sold them. So that's really not a playable doctrine anymore. So the new doctrine system will actually have 5 trees or branches, and each branch will have 3 levels. So the first one does this, the second one does, the third one does that. When you play a faction force, you will be assigned a number of points. You'll be able to go through there and assign those points to those doctrines and pick those for that particular game. So, and then there'll be ways of picking the points for pickup games, but it'll also work into the campaign. As you play through the campaign, you will generate points that you can come back and spend on the faction doctrines. So, let's say if the first line of each branch costs 1 point, well, once you get up to 5, you can have all 5 of those. Now, again, you'll need to take into account, the more stuff you add, the more that you can slow down the game. So for a normal tournament game or whatever, you're not going to have a lot of points, and you can pick this tree or whatever. But and then to go into that tree, you have to buy the next. You can't skip levels, so you'll have to buy level 1, level 2, level 3, and each of those levels will grow. So like the first one may be 1 point, the next one is 3 points, and the next one's 5 points. So through the campaign, you're going to have 9 points to get that all the way up to that level, but you get the best level of that. So you'll never have more than 5 of anything, but you may have those 5 at different levels. But once you get, if it ends up being 8 points and you get 40, then you'll be at level 3 in all 5 branches. So it'll allow you to have a lot more ability to come up with something unique, even when you're fighting other factions of the same. So if you've got an Adenese fighting an Adenese unit, let's say in a tournament or something like that, or there's whatever, you're playing some kind of a rebellion or something, you guys will be picking from the same branches, but you may assign your points totally different things. So it allows for a lot more individuality in your choice. If you play any computer games and stuff like that, it's kind of that kind of system where you build as you go in. So I think that's going to add a lot of neat stuff in a game. Obviously, it's more designed for a long-term type game if you're playing with the full deal, but that's where the campaign will come in. Now, going back to our philosophy of not trying to make you buy another rule book, as far as the scratch from the original book, we will be reprinting the basic rules in the Rules of Engagement book with all the updated errata and everything. So I think the rule book's like 32 pages of actual rules in the first book. So we'll be moving that in there. And that way, the original book will still have stuff that you need. It's going to have all the background stuff. It'll have, there'll be stuff that the book is still good for. But as far as the core rules and the construction system, those will be reprinted into the new books that we assume everybody will buy anyway, and that way you'll have an updated set of what you need all in place, and hopefully get away from that point. My plan also is when the Rules of Engagement book comes out, we'll also be taking that core set of rules, and probably with the construction set too, and having those available as PDFs. We have a lot of people ask us for those, tablets and everything. I just haven't been comfortable yet to get to that point where I was ready to put them out that way. But that's old school. I'm used to having books in my hand, so I'm learning and I listen. So when we have those out, we'll also be releasing those as PDFs. those will probably, the PDFs will probably just put out there so that anybody can download and at least get the core set of the rules. It's kind of like the quick start rules that are out there. You know, you can take the mechanics behind the quick start rules, download a couple of the reference sheets in your data cards, and you can play the game, and you don't need the rule book at all. So, but you know, for us hardcore guys that like all that, we'll keep up. To go along with the campaign book, I did want to bring up. I've put the link up a couple of times on the main CAV Strike Ops Facebook page. Can't find it. I think there was a particular post about it, and I think post that I put up for the Wednesday show, I put the link there as well. But if you can't find it, just message me or ask on the Facebook page and I'll back up. I was hoping to have the ability to put the link in the chat and stuff, but I haven't figured out that. So I'm sorry. But right now there is a kind of bare bones campaign system. It's got some of the mechanics in it that we are working on for the rule engagement book that we're trying to see how they do. One of the things that will that I really like so far is everybody's always trying to, you know, everybody's like, well, what makes a decent game? How many points should I put in a game? And I've always been kind of the philosophy that 2,500 points per side is usually good for, if you haven't played a lot, an hour. 2,500 points generally can be a 20 or 30 minute game. I think we've been playing 5,000 point tournaments and allocating 2.5 hours per round, and very rarely do any of the games go that. They're usually an hour and a half, 2 hours max. So that's kind of has bared out that plan. Obviously, the better that you get with the rules, the faster it'll go. And there's kind of a fine line that you can actually play more stuff and the game will go faster, just because you have so many things shooting. And you literally have entire squads taking out 1 or 2 CAVs every turn, just because of the amount of firepower. I couldn't tell you where that exact line is, but I see that happen a lot. But on the first page of the campaign rules, the sample, the beta rules that we put out, is there is a force group table here. And these points are a good way, even if you're just doing a pickup game, in order to kind of get an idea of how many points that you want to play. So let's say you want to play a CAV game and you're looking at 4 or 5, whatever models per side, 2 or 3 squads, 10 models. You can take these points. They're broke down into extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large by chassis size. And that'll give you a good idea of how big the game that you want to play and the longer that it'll take. So let's say we want to play a 2 squad game for each of us, and we're say 10 models. Well, if I take all extra large, that's at 1,000 points a model. That's a 10,000 point game. So with that big chassis, it's going to take longer. Of course, you're hammering a lot more damage out too, so it can go there for. But the list is broke down by CAVs and by vehicles. I don't do infantry and aircraft because I don't see them as much, and they're more of a special option or something like that. So the campaign system allows you to add that kind of thing, but from the basis, we work just from the CAVs and the vehicles. But if you want to do a CAV and vehicle mix, there's also a table for that. So if you're going to use both CAV and vehicles, like at the extra large, points average out now at 775. So if we were going to play a 10 point or a 10 model 2 squad game of mix of CAV and vehicles, our maximum points that we would have is 7,750. So this chart is good outside of the campaign, even when you're just kind of working on pickup games. But if you get a chance, download it. It's set up so that you have a start point here, and then based on who wins, goes through here until one of you gets to the victory spot. And it's possible to go here and come back and then have to come back or whatever, depending on how the games are played. And generally you want to play like a 2 out of 3 or a 3 out of 5, depending on how long you want to play. Because the campaign system's set up for you to play small games. You could have squad on squad games. You could have 2 model on 2 model games, depending on how the campaigns, how you pick the points that you go in. So you can go through a game very quickly if you want to, and get through a whole series in an hour. But so you want to play a best of 2 or best of 3 or best of 5 to pick the overall winner for that particular game. And you can move it if you want to play multiple days or whatever like that. So if you get a chance, look over it. It's got a lot of scenario ideas that are set up as well. There's a crew advancement, there's experience level things. So a lot of cool stuff in it. We've got more we want to add to it. We're going to flesh it out big time for the campaign. This is just kind of a bare bones with some concepts, and we'll kind of go from there. So that kind of covers what I want to cover tonight. If you haven't lately, there is a new updated reference chart there. We've managed to started playing. That's true. I was playing Dungeon. But the combat damage tables, we've been able to kind of come up with a way to get it all on one. So kind of got everything cleaned up a little bit with some of the numbers and some of the new things. I don't know if anybody picked up in errata, but you know, if your target doesn't move in his last activation, you get a plus to hit. If you shoot him from the back, you get a plus to hit. So there's things that, especially to try to keep people moving a little bit. I do think down the road, this isn't anything we're doing right now, but we're probably going to move the to hit numbers. Right now they are 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then 6 for indirect. We're probably going to move those to 4, 6, 8, and 10, so that there's a little bigger spread to make it a little more important for you to move closer to get a better number. So you get penalized a little bit on the high end, but you get a better number up close to hit. And then make the indirect number is going to be a 7 instead of a 6. And we're going to do away with the 10 plus. There won't be a 10 plus roll. So when you're doing an indirect fire, you will actually have to get with modifiers up above a 10. An automatic roll of 10, 11, 12 isn't going to cut it anymore. And that's just based on some feedback that we've got from players that it's going to come down the road. So that's things you want to try playing them now and give me some feedback, but it's not anything that's happening right now. We've kind of cleaned up some of the essays. You know, that's really where a lot of the errata stuff is coming. We've cleaned up some stuff. We've added. We've taken some things away. We're trying to make the game much more mobile. We want you to keep moving. One of the problems with it's not necessarily a CAV thing. It's a war game thing. Yes, yeah. If you get up into short ranges and need bases of 4, yes, you're going to be punching big time holes. But it's going to reward you for moving up close. Obviously, he'll be able to shoot you too, but at least you're getting into better numbers. So, you know, instead of having that base 6, you know, now you're going to be down to a 4 for short range. And that, you know, on a 2d6 system, a +2 variation either way makes it. Messed me up. Made me forget my trick. It was a short trick. All right, so that's where we're at right now. We'll have more stuff to talk about next week. We're still kind of figuring this format out and what to talk and Normally I would have a sidekick to talk and base off of, but we didn't have that tonight. We're hoping also next week we will be introducing CAV races. Make sure you turn in for that. We'll be explaining that later at the first of next week. It's kind of a cute little thing we're going to be doing. But we've got about 5 minutes left. Open it up here. Ask me anything that you want to ask. Things that we're working on. We are looking at moving all of our plastic production to the U.S. and actually having that in-house. We should have an answer on that in the next month or so. We've got 2 or 3 things that we're trying to figure out and make sure that's going to work, but very excited for that. If we get that put in place, you'll see a lot more of a monthly release schedule with a lot of new models and stuff, since we'll be able to do that all as we go along, rather than do a big Kickstarter and everything and have to for a year to get all of our. So that's a big thing. I'm hoping that we'll hear more about that coming up pretty soon. We're just waiting for people on the other end to answer some questions and make sure that it's going to work. Somebody asked me today on one of the pages too about a role-playing game. I would love to have a role-playing game for CAV. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to have that figured out, because I don't think a CAV role-playing game, you'll spend a lot of time in CAVs. We used to play MechWarrior, and that's how it usually ended up. It just seemed like there was a lot more combat than really should be in there. So I'm trying to kind of come up with a reason why we would have a role-playing. I used to a long time ago play a game called Space Opera, and I really liked how it was set up for it's what they call a thermoplastic resin. It's not PVC. And to explain kind of what thermoplastic resin does, because it is resin. I mean, it is a resin, but it's because it's thermoplastic, it actually melts and is injected like normal plastic. I would say that it's probably hardness-wise right now, somewhere in between Kickstarter 2 and Kickstarter 3, but you have the detail and the fineness that you had in Kickstarter 3. It does have a little more of a bendy property to it, but you don't have the bending like you have where you have to heat them up. The material is, if the gun comes out straight, if you put your finger on it, can you bend it a little bit? Yes, but you can bend metal too. But if you let go of it, it'll go back and be straight and true. We're going to have some samples here pretty soon that we're going to send out to some of our painters and stuff, and we'll show some stuff online to kind of get some feedback on it as well. How to pronounce each faction. You would do that to me. Terran, Templar, Ritter, Adon, Adonese, Malvern or Malvernus, Almathril. You got to make sure you get that L in there first. Almathril. And then Rock is Rock. So what's funny is, and you'll see as we come out with some of the stuff, the Rock actually spell their name, their version of our letters as R-O-K. So that's where you get Rock. We spell it, Terrans spell it R-A-C-H, but it's the same pronunciation. But actually true Rock, in their language, it's spelled R-O-K. Yes, Almathril, get the A-L in there and you're good. Little pointy L things. We are going to be moving towards the first galactic war, so that's something big to look forward to. Adonese may not be so happy about what's going to happen, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. All right, we're down here. We're down to the 2-minute drill. Hit me up if you want me to keep talking. If not, we're getting ready to call it. Type fast, type fast. Unfortunately, you did. We, I, I hate to keep everybody longer than an hour, but with the wonders of modern technology, you'll be able to go back and watch it again later. Also, in case you haven't noticed, we are starting to upload these up onto our YouTube channel as well. The link for our YouTube channel is on here somewhere. It's on our Facebook too. We're not big enough and fancy enough to have our own unique ID yet, so. But we have a Discord server if you want to get on Discord. Generally, I try on the Wednesday night show after I'm done here to get on Discord for a little bit if anybody has some extra questions or whatever. I'm not going to do it tonight just because it's been a long day. Yes, we're going to keep fleshing everything out with variants. We've got new models coming too, but I'm not going to get into we're not going to have 2,000 different models that 600 of them do the same thing. They look different. We don't want to have to sort through that. We don't want you to have that many. So if we can put out a variant that lets you use the minis you already have and get what you want, you're good to go. We are going to do more of the Warhawk, Starhawk 5 mixes that we're going to do so that you'll be able to do different variants based on the packs. We are going to got a couple of plans. After we package and everything, we always have minis that get pieces left out or missed, and sometimes we don't catch them and they go out in an order, and I apologize for that, but we have a great big bucket full of pieces. And I think we're going to try to sort those out and kind of come up with some bits packages that'll be available until they're gone. So that's something that yes, Jeff, actually those are already out there. I'll have to get you the links for them, but we actually have some true type fonts out of the. Will there be YouTube battle reports? Yes, we're trying to get to that. Next weekend is going to be our virtual CAVCon. So James, Mad Dog Meredith is going to be up here. So we're going to be playing games on the weekend. But we are going to start doing some more battle reports, stuff like that. We're learning the technology and figuring out the best. Yeah, there's on the Reaper forums under the CAV, there's a link up there for somewhere. And the main thing that we need to go back and do that we kind of figured out is as far as the actual base or the black base. But what ends up happening is when we get everything from the manufacturer, they package each figure individually into a plastic bag. We cut that bag open and pour it into the blister and out it goes. We do so many at a time, we don't always catch that they mispackaged something. And it's one of those things, it's more cost effective for us to fix the problem and send you another one than to spend hours going through all those packages and make sure that they're right before. It's just a time issue. Well, if they don't have a black one, that's our fault. That's our packager problem, our fault. And we have had that happen, and I try to stomp on that. So make sure, let me know that happens. If we need to send you some black bases, we will, and we'll take care of you. But the last thing I wanted to say about the fonts, in case you get them, is the fonts were put together as more of a communication type font. So, like in you know, with English Standard with the different fonts, obviously, you know, Times Roman or whatever that you use to type a letter or whatever, those fonts don't always look that great as far as stamped on the side of a CAV or whatever. Get the stencil fonts like that. Well, unfortunately, the fonts that we set up for the different races are more of a communications font, so they're not really blocky and look good to put on models. So we've got to come back and come up with their versions of stencil for their fonts. That's something that we're working on. All right, guys, I could go on forever, but I know that the missus is waiting for me to get home. So I'm going to call it a night, and we will, we've got a little show going on tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I'm not quite sure if Chris is going to be doing sculpting or not. He did get his tablet in today, back from the repair place, but I don't know if he'll be ready to go by 2 tomorrow. If he's not, I will be on here answering questions and painting some figures for the virtual convention next weekend. We will be back Wednesday night at 8 o'clock again for our kind of CAV show. And then Tuesday night will be terrain show, which starts at 6 o'clock and goes to 8. This is all Central Time. And I think this Tuesday I'm going to be building trees, showing you how to set up trees. So other than that, good night. Thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you next week. Maybe. Button.